Greetings, ladies and gentlefish, and welcome to a pair of games, both courtesy of Mac, and both in the M24 Chaffee American Tier 5 light tank, and they're both going to be on the same map. So, we're going to be on Malinovka in both instances. The first game is an encounter game, as hopefully you can see. The second game will be a standard game. Now, I wanted to show these games. I mean, Mac sent them in, and they're good games in and of their own right, but also because with the personal missions, lots of people are driving tank types they wouldn't necessarily usually drive, in particular light tanks and artillery. And so I thought it was worth showing, let me just change this to colorblind mode, worth showing some positions that you can use to try and rack up some spotting damage. So this is an encounter game, and Mac has just come to this position here, and he's basically lighting up the enemy team, taking shots where he can, but trying not to take too many risks. There we go, he's killed a T-25/2. This is a Tier 7 game, I should point out, which is middle of the road matchmaking for the Chaffee. So yeah, I just wanted to point out some locations that you can use to rack up good amounts of spotting damage. And I'm going to try and do this basically with each of the sort of tank classes where it's relevant, show you positions that you can try and use, or machines you can try and use to get those missions done, in particular the number 15 missions. So Mac has got some spotting damage done there and picked up a kill on a Tier 7 tank himself, and now he has the flank of these fellows. Alas, M5 Stuart, who was with him, went to a better place. Flank of a KV-85, takes a shot there. But actually penetrating the flank of a KV-85 from any distance might be slightly tricky. With AP rounds, you get 96 penetration with this gun. Yeah, side armor of the KV-85, can't remember the exact number off the top of my head, but it's probably something around 60mm, plus spaced armor from the tracks, and, you know, you can potentially have problems. Mac actually takes a hit there, thankfully not one from the Su-122, that would have hurt. It looked like it was a hit from the TOG. There's a medium tank off to Mac's right that he does need to be a little bit careful of in case the guy rushes Mac, but it seems he's content to let Mac be. Now this is a very powerful position, but what Mac did, rushing into this position from the sort of D6 area along the edge of that waterfront, it tends to be a bit of a high-risk strategy. Now you can, if you spawn from the south, you can try and do the mirror of this and spot the northern team. You know, get yourself 2d6. So this is a position that works from either spawn. Obviously, I should point out, it only really works on encounter. In a regular game, there's far too many people on the main field area able to put fire into you. But this is a bit of a high-risk strategy. It tends to either work gloriously well or be a dismal failure. There's not usually much middle ground, but if you're playing a low tier light tank, it can be worth taking the risk. And if you're trying to prioritize completing your mission or whatever, or you're trying to have a really good game, then, you know, taking that risk can pay off. It's not worth doing in every situation, but it can work out. So Mac takes a hit there from the KV-13, but he just circles this guy and manages to put a round into him to finish him off. So Mac himself has picked up 2 kills, and the scoreline is 9-7. Both of these games, by the way, are going to be up from patch 9.4, but the maps and tanks haven't changed significantly, so what Mac's going to do in both of these games will work now. Or I see no reason why it wouldn't. The only thing you might want to be a little bit careful of is that there's likely a lot more light tanks floating around, which means you might be trying to compete with them for the spotting damage. Oh, that was close, my word. I have no idea why that SU was slow traversing his gun. I think there he could have nailed Mac, but as with most things that are successful in life, a little bit of skill and a little bit of luck will see you right. So Mac, in and of himself, has picked up 3 kills in this Tier 7 game. He has not fired a single round of APCR. All of those kills are with good old-fashioned armor-piercing ammo, which with the 90-odd penetration of this gun is no mean feat. And that secures kill number 4, GW Panther. This guy can be a right nuisance for light tanks. He has a very good traverse. but not on this instance, and Mac picks up kill number 5. KV-85 and a Hellcat remaining. And so, just going hunting. And you can see here the Chaffee's a very fast little machine. I've actually moved my crew out of my Chaffee into the T67, not T67, sorry, the T37, to keep progressing up that tech line. But I will retransfer my crew back into the Chaffee at some point. Firstly, so that I can put up a review of it, and secondly, to pick up the ace tanker. Mac takes that last shot a little bit more carefully and picks up kill number 6 for a Top Gun. So to anybody who says light tanks can't pull their weight, well, this is evidence to the contrary. It's often more difficult to pull your weight in a light tank, but they can definitely do it. So there's just this Hellcat remaining, and he's all the way over there, and he's dead, and that was the game. So that was an ace tanker for Mac, a Top Gun. It was also an Orlix medal, I believe, for killing, is that killing 3 enemy tanks that are 2 tiers higher than you, or a tier higher than you or something, in a light tank. And also Mac picked up just over 4,000 assistance damage there. So this game, had he played it now, this game would have been sufficient to complete light tank 15 for the Stug 4. So if any of you are struggling completing the last light tank mission for the Stug, this game would have done it, and hopefully this gives you an idea of a position you can use on an encounter game, and it has to be an encounter game on Malinovka that will that can pick you up a very nice amount of assistance damage. And I think all of that damage that Mac picked up, all of that assistance damage, was spotting. None of it was tracking. So have a look at the post-battle results, and then we'll jump into the second game once again on Malinovka. Here we are with game number 2, and the replays keep resetting my, well, settings, which is slightly irritating. So, this is game number 2. Again, Malinovka. This time it's a standard game rather than encounter. Now, the position that Mac's going to go to here ideally requires a good spawn and doesn't work very well in every light tank. Now, the Chaffee's relatively small and fast, so it can reach this position fairly quickly. And it's small and stealthy, so it can stay hidden. But if you're going to try and do this in something like an Aufklärungspanzerpanther, it wouldn't go so well. Trust me, I've tried. But you can see here, he's managed to get in behind this bush. Again, this is a tier 7 game, by the way. Get in behind this bush, turn on his binos, and spotting the enemy team. So the previous game was kind of gave you an idea of active spotting, active scouting, and this is more passive. Some people would consider this more boring gameplay, I guess. But if you want to play light tanks, I would recommend not being averse to doing this if the situation presents itself. And on Malinovka, the situation can very definitely present itself. Now, I must confess, this sort of scouting can backfire horribly, as you end up with your team taking advantage of the guys that you are spotting, and that, ooh. Well, I don't know if Mac's got Sixth Sense off the top of my head. That looked like it, and that shot, it looks like Mac hasn't actually been spotted. But in general, if you are very confident about this position, then feel free to do that, to take shots like that. But if you are not so confident about using this position, I would hold your fire, because firing when you're passive scouting can be a very quick way to get yourself killed. Now, as I was saying, this can backfire because you get your team sit there, try and shoot the things that you've been spotting, rather than moving up into advantageous positions. And so your team ends up being out of position as a result of your spotting, and it can backfire quite badly. Now, Mac is now moving forwards, being a little bit more aggressive. He takes a hit, but it's nothing serious. Let's say the Chaffee's not a huge tank, so he can kind of dodge a lot of these shots, and he's not staying still, and his team is raining down death and destruction on his targets. So Mac's just going to advance here, and just because you found a position where you can do some passive scouting, that doesn't necessarily mean you should just sit there all game. In fact, most of the time you probably shouldn't. And indeed, Mac didn't just sit there the whole game. He did some spotting and then moved forwards. He's become more aggressive. He's leading his team essentially, finding all of the bad guys for his team to shoot up, and even picking up the odd kill in the process. You do have to be careful about this. You know, you do become target priority number 1. That ELC can one-shot Mac, but the ELC misses. You do often become target priority number 1. I mean, people tend to prioritize light tanks anyway, because they're relatively soft and squishy. But there we go. There's kill number 2 for Mac, by the way. But if you're just kind of running around in their face, spotting all of their things, getting them killed, I mean, that doesn't exactly enamor you to anyone. I would, by the way, advise ignoring the Yak Panther in chat. He doesn't really appear to know what he's talking about. Yeah, what are you going to do? Anyway, Panther, Tiger P and IS-2 are the only ones left. This was a bit of a stomp, it really was. We're only just approaching the 4-minute mark of the game. Tiger P and IS-2 are the only ones left. Yeah, this has been a bit of a slaughter, due in no small part to Mac's spotting efforts. The other reason I wanted to show these two games is not only does it give you an idea of positions you can use, but it also shows that you can get these good spotting damage games in relatively low tier machines. I mean, the Chaffee is only tier 5. As Mac starts pumping some shots into the side of this Tiger P. Tiger P has just missed. Yeah, the Chaffee is only tier 5. It's not like he's driving a tier 8 light tank, and his team actually caps the base. I mean, maybe the heavy tanks needed the... I was going to say needed the capping mission, but when he played this game, there was no such thing. Whatever. Anyway, that ended up being the game. It was under 5 minutes, it was short, it was brutal, and Mac managed to pick up over 5,000 assistance damage that time. I.e., if he'd played it now, this game would have completed Light Tank 15 for the T-28 heavy tank concept. Machine tank. So a very nice bit of light tanking there. And thank you, Mac, for sending these in. They seemed to be very fortuitously timed. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed those games. I hope they've given you a couple of ideas about locations you might want to use in your own light tanks, and possibly given you an idea that you can still get good amounts of spotting damage at the lower tiers. Of course, you need a little bit of luck as well as a bit of judgment, but it is possible to do. You can do it. So yes, I hope you enjoyed them. I hope you found them vaguely informative. If you did, please feel free to catch some of my other videos and or subscribe to my channel, and I wish you very happy hunting on that battlefield. Ciao ciao.